Hey guys, welcome back to Anthony's Tennis Hub. My name's Anthony Hirsch, and today I want to give a kind of mid-season recap or review of things that have gone down this season. I'm going to go over the top 10 players in the ATP rankings and talking about what the seasons of those players have been like, just the state of the men's game at the moment, talking about best matches of the year and other stuff like that. It's been a second since I've done a video or a podcast since Roland Garros ended, the clay season ended, the grass season has started. I haven't put anything out. I just want to mention I'm back and I'm here for Wimbledon, and hopefully now we can kind of keep things going. I definitely needed a break, a little bit of a break, as the grass season has begun. I mean, some of the things that have gone down. Sinner got the win and Halle. Alcaraz lost to Jack Draper in Queens. Queens was won by Tommy Paul. Draper, though, also getting a first title, among other things going on. So there have been some good things, exciting, interesting things going on to start off the grass swing. Talk a little bit about that too, but mostly just recapping the season that's happened so far in 2024. And I will also have a Wimbledon draw preview out as well, and predictions. My Roland Garros predictions did quite well, so hey, let's see. I don't expect the Wimbledon ones to do as nearly as well, so but we'll see. Alright, well first let me just talk about some of the biggest things that have happened in 2024 so far. Just a mid-season review right before we go on to the second half of the year, right before we head on to the grass swing in Wimbledon. Just kind of recap some things, talk through some things, and talk about where we're at. Djokovic has been struggling. I said it in my predictions when I was predicting the ATP top 10 and a few other videos as well. But I was saying towards the end of last year that, listen, Djokovic is riding an absolute crazy high at the moment, but oftentimes after a person has a crazy season like that, especially at the age that Djokovic is at, it's going to be very hard for him to maintain that level and for him to have an equally good season right after that, right? It's hard to maintain that level after you have that crazy of a season. In 2011, he won 3 out of the 4 majors, and then 2012, he didn't win. He only won 1 major, first major of the year, Australian Open. 2015, he won 3 of the 4 majors. 2016, he had a decent year. He won the first 2 majors of the year, pretty good. But then he only reached 1 more final the whole rest of the season. So it was a good season anyway, but that's when his kind of downfall at the start of the tour kind of started happening in 2016 after such a crazy 2015, 2016, even 2014 winning Wimbledon, but especially 2015, 2016. But then I'd also like to mention 2021, where he won 3 out of the 4 majors of the year, then struggled the next year. And it's not just Djokovic and his circumstances. It's also, there's been a lot of players who have such a crazy year, and then the year after that, they can fail to kind of meet up to what they did in that season. Sometimes they can, repeat, but a lot of the times that's the case. And I just felt like for Djokovic, it was likely going to be the case that he was going to have a much worse 2024 than he did in 2023. A few things that have been unique about Novak's year and different from anything we've seen from him in the past. He's had his fastest loss on clay courts this year. Fastest loss on clay courts. That was to Bilo in Rome. He lost to Luca Nardi at Indian Wells, who's outside the top 100 in the world. Lost in the Australian Open. First time he's ever lost the Australian Open. The semifinals and the finals. He lost to Sinner there, of course. So Djokovic's been struggling. He hasn't reached a single final all year this year, which is crazy. Especially considering last year, starting from about Roland Garros, he reached the final of every single tournament that he played. This year, complete contrast to that, stark contrast to that, he has not reached a single final, which is crazy. Djokovic is in a very different place right now. He's losing a lot. And that's one of the biggest things that has defined this year so far. And Rafa, his comeback as well, starting from Brisbane, but especially during the clay court season. Some good wins, had a win over Alex de Minaur, who's been playing great in straight sets. So he's also been playing at a high level at times, but it just feels different this year. It does when it comes to the big four and the big three with Murray. Not himself. Federer is retired. Nadal not really at the top of his game, and Djokovic definitely not at the top of his game this year. So it's paved the way for something we haven't seen this whole era, which is 2 consecutive slams won by guys outside of the big four. Sinner and Alcaraz winning majors to start the year off. Australian Open, Roland Garros. Australian Open in the last 20 years I've said this before, but it's only been won by the same generation, which is Wawrinka, Federer, Murray, Nadal, or Australian Open, not by Murray even. It's by Wawrinka, Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. Roland Garros, same thing. Federer, Nadal, Wawrinka, and Djokovic. And then Sinner and Alcaraz broke that streak, which was a cool thing to see from those guys. But but just the fact that the big three haven't been there, and also the young guys coming through, those have been some of the biggest things. So just talking about the biggest storylines of the year so far, I mean, Sinner beating Djokovic at the Australian Open in the fashion he did. What were the first 2 sets there? 6-1, 6-2. Sinner playing at an astonishingly good level. I mean, he was up 2-0 and had a match point on Djokovic. And to that point, he had not even lost a set in the tournament. This is the guy that we were having concerns about best of 5 and his physicality, but I mean, Djokovic ended up taking the 3rd set, but it was still a very, very, very impressive, at times one-sided win over Djokovic at the Australian Open. And then Alcaraz winning his 3rd major in 3 years at just having turned 21 years old. A surface career slam, having a slam on every single surface. And listen, very fittingly, Sinner and Alcaraz topping the rankings for the first time. Sinner got world number 1, Alcaraz got his 3rd major, and they both were world number 1, number 2 for the first time following that Roland Garros. So those have been a few of the biggest storylines of the year. I'd say another big storyline, honestly, is the 2-week Masters that we've had. There were a lot of injuries during the clay season, and honestly, I think it's a lot to do with the 2-week Masters, right, one after another, and very little break for the players. They're constantly in the swing of things, playing these intense tournaments, especially and on clay, which is such a physical surface as well. So we saw a lot of injuries there. I don't feel like we had the strongest clay swing from the men's side that we could have gone to, and I do think that maybe some of the 2-week Masters format should be rethought in order to avoid this kind of situation. But I mean, we did still get some great matches. Just talking about some of the best matches that we've gotten this year so far, and then after this, I kind of want to go over the top 10 rankings and just go over every single player, what their season's been like, and what to kind of expect from them potentially for the second half of the year, and who are the players I have my eye on the most as well. But some of the best matches of the year so far, just a few I want to shout out. Rune versus Caboli at Roland Garros was amazing. Rune was down 5-0 in the final set tiebreaker, hits a blistering 100 miles per hour return a serve winner, clean winner, and then wins, I believe, like 10 of the next 11 points, 12 points to win the tiebreaker from down 5-0. Very close getting upset at Roland Garros. So that was an incredible fight from Rune, who's had a lot of question marks about him this year. He's been struggling. He's only about 15th in the race. So, there's a lot of question marks about him. He finds ways to win a lot of matches that get quite close, I believe, or at least he has a good fight in matches like the comeback against Sinner in Monte Carlo. He fought well to even push that to 3 sets. But he's playing in ways where I question his shot selection and his IQ, tennis IQ at times on the court. And just the way he's playing a lot of times, he's playing very, very aggressive, even on the kind of slower clay. And that's not how he was playing last year when it was working for him. So that's just something I would mention. Tsitsipas, Jari in Rome. was fantastic. Jari getting to the final there, of course, and having a fantastic win over Tsitsipas, saving loads and loads and loads of break points against Tsitsipas and doing it confidently his way. Both guys played great. Tsitsipas didn't even play bad. He's played really well and consistently well at Rome, but Jari got the win there. Some other matches on clay that I'd like to point out. Shang versus Mute in Madrid, 4 hours of absolute chaos. Love it. Also got more attention towards Shang, who's a very talented young guy coming up, so that's always cool. And also Mute is Mute is quite the character. And that brings me to two other exciting moments. Another exciting moment that happened this year, and which happened on clay, was Mute getting the first set over Sinner at Roland Garros, and also just the way that he did it. He was barely losing points. He was up 5-0, 40-15 on Yannick at Roland Garros, which was really, really crazy and weird. I think that was probably the second weirdest scoreline of the year so far. The other one being what was it? Monfils bageling Hurkacz at Indian Wells, if you remember that one as well. Monfils, it was 6-0, 6-7, 6-2. Monfils upset Hurkacz. And at one point, he was leading 6-0, 6-7, 4-0, Monfils over Hurkacz, just constantly breaking Hurkacz. It was a very, very weird match, and Hurkacz was definitely not 100%, but very strange. Talking about some other interesting matches this year, two of the absolute top so far, which I feel like last year was stronger to this point in the season for best matches than we've had this year, but these two matches were absolutely fantastic. Djokovic versus Musetti at Roland Garros, and Djokovic versus Cerundolo at Roland Garros back to back. I mean, if Djokovic was gonna withdraw out of the tournament, and there's not that much bigger of a statement he could have done so before withdrawing of that, just the fact that he's one of the best that's ever played this game. To come back in both of those matches from 2 sets to 1 down, struggling physically, looking like he might even retire out of the match against Cerundolo, then playing at 3 a.m. against Musetti, and Musetti playing just some of the most unbelievable tennis. I don't know which match was better. I kind of remember Djokovic Musetti more fondly just because I was so amazed by how Musetti played. Here's what I'd say. I'd say the comeback versus Cerundolo was better. I'd say the match against Musetti was stronger, but not by a lot. The Djokovic-Cerundolo match was also very good, but I'd say Djokovic-Musetti, it felt like every other point was a point that could have been on a highlight reel. So those were just fantastic. Musetti's showing incredible, Alcaraz-like speed as well. He's definitely somebody to watch, and it's a shame his record at Roland Garros is what it is. I think he's 8-6 or 8-4 or something. It's not very strong. I don't think he's even been to the quarterfinals of Roland Garros, Musetti. So it just comes down to the opponents he's played. He was up 2 sets to love on Djokovic, and then he was up 2 sets to love on Tsitsipas the year after that. Then he played Alcaraz, and now he played Djokovic again and got so close to winning. So anyway, some other matches that I'd like to point out for best matches of the year so far. We've had 2 5-set Grand Slam finals, which have been pretty good. I wouldn't consider either of them just of the most absolute top tier epic matches. I don't think either of them were that. But Alcaraz Zverev was pretty good. Alcaraz showing really good high level tennis in the last couple of sets. And Sinner versus Medvedev was really compelling. Sinner showing the fight that he did. Absolutely amazing. To win his first major from down 2 sets to love. Medvedev playing some ridiculous attacking tennis in the first 2 sets. Some of the best tennis I've ever seen Medvedev play. Going back to the way he played when he was 20, 21, just super attacking. And it was working. Sinner had no idea what to do, but Sinner put his head down, and, like Ivan Lendl back in the day and a couple other players, but not many, but he got his first Grand Slam title from down 2 sets to love, which is a very exciting moment. We're getting a lot more kind of long 5-set Grand Slam finals. A lot of those including Tsitsipas, Medvedev, and Zverev. The Tsitsipas and Zverev now have been in quite a few 5-set finals, but and Medvedev as well. And they're not winning a whole lot of them. Medvedev has only won. They have only, together, all 3 of those players, Medvedev, Zverev, Tsitsipas, they've only won 1 major, and that wasn't in 5 sets, so unfortunate for them. But anyway, some of the other matches this year that I'd like to point out, those finals I don't think are the best, but they're definitely worth a shout out. And then also Hurkacz versus Medvedev at the Australian Open. Honestly, might be my favorite of the year so far. The one that stands out the most to me, probably, to be honest, looking at the list of matches, is Djokovic versus Musetti at Roland Garros. That might be the best so far of the year, but Hurkacz Medvedev is definitely up there as well. Just so interesting seeing the way that these two were playing. So many long rallies, and Medvedev right on top of the baseline as well to return, much more inside the court. And it was so weird. The first couple of sets were just so many long rallies, and then Hurkacz started coming to net. Medvedev was coming up with these ridiculous passing shots, some from the baseline. And then Hurkacz kept coming to net. Medvedev got tired, and then the fifth set, Medvedev just started storming the net almost every single point, and it was working, even though he was hitting with the most ridiculous form you'll ever see on a tennis court. Whether I'm not just talking professional players, I'm talking club players as well, but it was working. So that match was amazing. It ended off incredibly well too. Medvedev with a drop shot on match point. Some ridiculous shots at the end of the match. Hurkacz with a slide coming close to the net, and then the crazy, I think it was a volley or a half volley that landed like an inch in front of the net. There was some crazy shot making in this match. I think they're two of the most underrated talents on the tour, but they're not known for that. They're known for, big serving, not particularly flashy play, but their talents really came to play because they were playing in a really dynamic kind of chess matchy kind of way against one another, and it turned out to be this just absolutely really fun to watch match where there's a lot of things going on. So that's something I'd say. Medvedev Zverev at the Australian Open, amazing comeback from Medvedev. He was looking down the barrel. Zverev had just beaten Alcaraz in 4 sets, and Zverev was serving out of his mind, but Medvedev with a ridiculous comeback. So that was another one. Just a few shout-outs. I won't talk in depth about these other ones. Sinner Alcaraz, Roland Garros. I didn't think it was their best match, but it's Sinner Alcaraz, and it was still quite good, especially towards the end of the match. It got a little bit better. Also, their match in Indian Wells, just, once again, it is Sinner Alcaraz. So, Nadal, Minaur, Madrid, Rune, Dimitrov, and Monte Carlo. Absolutely one of the best of 3-set matches of the year. Fantastic shot making from both. Both guys playing at a very high level in that one. And Rune getting the win in the end of the day. Rune Sinner, Monte Carlo, Tsitsipas Sinner, Monte Carlo. Rune Navone in Madrid was very, very good. Norrie Monfils played a very, very good match at Indian Wells. Nadal Thompson in Brisbane. And Alcaraz Sonego at the Australian Open. Very, very, very fun 4-set match. Sonego played incredibly well. Medvedev Alcaraz Indian Wells. Second set, no, but the first set I thought was one of the best sets of the year. I think it's very underrated. I thought Medvedev played amazing, and I also, dare I say, after that first set, Medvedev has not been the same player. I feel like that first set, maybe it was the kind of do or die of Medvedev's season. And that's another big component. I'll talk about the top 10 players and what their seasons have looked like, and I'll definitely talk about Medvedev. But I feel like that after that first set, Medvedev really has not been the same player. I don't know exactly what his win-loss record has been, but he's been looking very strange with his level since that set. But that set, he was playing amazing, and so was Alcaraz. That set, I felt like was what I had always been waiting for from a Medvedev versus Alcaraz match. Such a clash of styles. Defense versus offense, they're so different from one another, yet they're both so creative, so dynamic, so inventive, and that set was incredible. So I feel like it's a bit underrated, that set of tennis. And then the last one I'd point out is Prismic versus Djokovic at the Australian Open. Great play from a young guy showing that, listen, there are so many good young players around that are going to be big problems and that means that we're probably not going to have an era next that was as dominant by just 1, 2, 3 players as the Big 3 era. But we'll see what happens. There's so many good young players around, and Prismic coming up at, was he 17, 18? He's shown that that's the case for him as well. And then before I go on to the top 10 players, I also want to mention some of the best shots of the year so far as well. So these are a few of the best shots. Sinner hit this incredible shot that you might remember versus Alcaraz in Indian Wells, where first Alcaraz hit this volley behind center, where he hit this crazy attempt at a backhand pass. His foot pretty much sideways to the court, sliding behind himself as he hits this backhand pass. Alcaraz hits this volley, incredible drop volley that lands about 2 inches in front of the net. Sinner somehow manages to get there before double bounce. Not only does he get to the shot, he hits a squash shot under it and hits a forehand winner. Also flicked it right in front of the net cross court, which was just absolutely amazing. Another one, Sinner, his dives in Halle. So we're starting off with some great Jannik Sinner shots, but Jannik Sinner is an underrated talent and shot maker. I mean, he's not, very little that can say that he's underrated, but I'd say it's fair to say that he's underrated in his shot making ability. I think less so after these dives that he hit in Halle. One against Greek Sport, I think everyone has seen it, where he was running the wrong way. Greek Sport's shot hits the net and goes over, and Sinner hits this incredible dive passing shot. And then against Morozov in the next round as well, he hit a great one. Medvedev hit this absolutely ridiculous, all-time, in my opinion, good shot against Zverev in the Australian Open. He was way behind the court, and then Zverev hit a shot right very close to the net. Medvedev not only got to it, but this screamer passing shot past Zverev, running close to the net. This was at a point where Medvedev was down 2-0 in that match. It was 4-4, like 30 all. And I feel like that shot really started to turn things towards Medvedev's favor, and he got a little bit of momentum as he hit this absolutely ridiculous shot where Zverev also it just completely just landed on his butt, falling as Medvedev hit the shot behind him. Just completely shocked that Medvedev not just got to it really, but hit this incredible, like 100 miles per hour forehand past him. Alcaraz hit this great shot versus Medvedev in Indian Wells, kind of this banana shot, but that wasn't even the most impressive shot of the rally. Probably the best get of the whole year that we'll see. Alcaraz swings for this overhead, completely misreads the ball and whiffs the overhead, and then somehow still gets the ball behind him with the squash shot behind him. Not dissimilar from a shot that he hit against, two shots. One that he hit against Djokovic at Roland Garros last year, where he had hit the shot around himself, kind of for a passing shot, that forehand passing shot, squash shot. And also a shot they hit in exhibition against Tommy Paul. He hit the shot a few times, but the most memorable being the one where he hit it against Djokovic at Roland Garros. He hits this one for a lob, but I feel like it's gonna, I said it after he hit it in the exhibition against Paul. I think that this shot, the squash shot, hitting it about an inch off the ground, is gonna become his signature shot. And he's the only player probably in history who can hit this shot. I've never seen it hit before in the same way that he does. I've seen other people hit somewhat similar shots. Gael Monfils hit this a couple times. Federer kind of hit the shot against Nalbandian, but to do it the way that he does it, in the very impressive way he does it, and go for winners consistently, and hit it about an inch off the ground, I mean, only he has a ridiculous talent to be able to even attempt this shot. And I think it's going to become his signature shot, kind of not a tweener. It doesn't go between his legs, it's around his legs. It's not a tweener, it's an arounder. The Alcaraz arounder. He hits this arounder squash shot running backwards, forehand squash shot, an arounder. Not between the legs, but around the legs. An arounder from Alcaraz. So that was a great shot from Alcaraz against Medvedev in Indian Wells. And then a few Alcaraz shots versus Zverev and Roland Garros. Another banana shot, a la Nadal. And Alcaraz hit this also incredible around the net versus Sonego. Sonego hit this backhand smash, and Alcaraz directly off the backhand smash hit an around the net screamer. Hurkacz had an incredible over-the-shoulder shot against Sinner and Halle. And just to name one other one here as well, that actually it's the shot that I mentioned earlier, the Hurkacz shot against Medvedev at the Australian Open, where he hit that half volley or volley that landed like an inch from the net. Anyway, those are some of my favorite shots of the year so far. It's my favorite thing in tennis, is crazy shot making. I love it. So those are my favorite shots of the year. I think the best shots of the year so far. Before I want to talk about the top 10 players in the world, I also want to mention some of the other notable seasons of other players that have happened so far in the first half of 2024. Some of the very kind of next gen of Mensik, Fonseca, and Prismic, they've asserted that they're coming, that they've already done some impressive things. Prismic with that very impressive match against Djokovic in Australia, where Djokovic and him played over 4 hours and 1 minute. A match. Mensik has had some very, very impressive, results, such as a final in Doha, which is very impressive. Even this week, his first time playing on grass, he beat Christopher Eubanks in the first round Mallorca this week. So, Mensik, I absolutely think you have to watch him. You have to keep your eye on him because I think he is coming quickly. And Fonseca as well with some very impressive results with a 6-0, 6-4 win over Arthur Fils at the Golden Swing. So all of those guys have shown some impressive stuff, and they're definitely ones to watch. I'd also mention not the same generation, but Jack Draper, Sebastian Korda, and Felix Auger-Aliassime. Been some doubts about them recently, but they're also doing some exciting things. Felix, getting a win over Casper Ruud in Madrid, 6-4, 7-5, playing some fantastic tennis, also getting to the final there, although under some, pretty wild circumstances, but he played well in the final against Rublev as well, I thought. Once he gets to surfaces he likes better, I hope that he can keep building upon that, and also stay healthy. Sebastian Korda doing some very impressive things as well, and doing really well to start off this grass swing as well. I mean, just talking about his grass results, got to the semis of Queens. He took out Hachinov, he took out Dimitrov 7-5 in the third, beat Hijikata. Then he lost to Tommy Paul, ended up winning the tournament. He also got to the final of Sir Hagenbosch, where he lost to Minaur in the final, but he took out Tommy Paul there, 6-4, 6-2. So, and Draper getting his first title, playing amazing, also beat Alcaraz. So I kind of thought Draper could have a game that could trouble Alcaraz. If you watch their match that they played against each other in Basel a few years ago, Draper, either of those guys could have won that match. I mean, Draper was very close to beating a very solid Alcaraz in 2022. So, anyway, Draper has that big game that can push Alcaraz back, and I expect him to stay a problem for Alcaraz. And he's also just a big talent. He's got some big shots and big weapons that will hurt anybody that he plays. So I definitely a lot of young players to watch out for. And also, I didn't even mention Musetti, who I did mention against Djokovic. He's not had, a great season, but just that match against Djokovic at Roland Garros, it just shows, listen, this guy's somebody to watch. And even this grass swing, he's done pretty well. He took out Minaur, I think. I can't remember which tournament, but he took out Minaur at one of the grass events. So I also mentioned him. Tiafoe, on the other side, has been struggling a lot. He doesn't look particularly motivated. He's having a lot of struggles. So we'll see if Tiafoe finds it again. Tiafoe is a very talented player. He had a great little season between the US Open 2022 and, where was it? I think it was in Stuttgart in 2023. When he became a top 10 player. That little period, he was playing phenomenal tennis. Absolutely phenomenal. Crowds love him. It would be great to see him really find some of his best again, but it has not been happening recently. Okay, is there anybody else that I really want to mention before I go on to the top 10? I mean, I mentioned Jarry, who had a great run in Rome. Monfils is still killing it, despite the fact that he's almost 38 years old. If he reaches the final this week, listen, if he reaches the final this week, he will have reached the final of an ATP event for 20 straight years. Guess what? He is the only man who has done that for 20 straight years in ATP events in the Open era. The only man outside of Federer. He would be tied with Federer for number one in the Open era for most consecutive seasons reaching an ATP title. Gael Monfils and Federer. Nadal, Djokovic, and Jimmy Connors would be right behind him if he can get to the final. So anyway, Monfils has been killing it. I also want to give a shout out to Monfils. Those are some of the big things I would mention. I did say Rune's been struggling a bit. One more thing I will mention. Well, I'll say two things. Two things I'll mention. Fritz is having a very underrated season. I think Fritz is having a very underrated season so far. I'd say the most underrated. I'd say Fritz is having the most underrated season of any player. Took the title in Delray Beach, playing phenomenal tennis. His backhand and his backhand defense looking better than I've seen it. Defending so well out of that backhand corner. Playing smart points on the clay. Playing so well on the clay. Striking the ball so well on the clay. He's done well on all three serves. His match against Djokovic, I feel like, is the most underrated performance of the year. He played amazing against Djokovic. And he really tired Novak out, I felt like. Novak went 0-15 on break points. I felt like that was a very strong performance. Became the first American man to reach the quarterfinals of all three Clay Masters events. Took out Dimitrov in Rome. Lost to Zverev, which is no shame the way Zverev was playing. Lost to Rublev in Madrid. The tournament, the Bavarian International, is the only tournament where he really didn't perform quite as well, but he still beat Draper, beat Garin. He lost to Struff in the final, which was his first clay final. Lost to Musetti in Monte Carlo. I mean, he was only losing to good players, and I like him on grass. I like him a lot on grass. So he lost to Rude at the French. So I just feel like Fritz is playing some of his best tennis. I feel like he's primed to have a top result. He works hard and he's improving, and I think we'll see that. He did have a loss to Thompson last week in Queens, which I feel like he'll be disappointed with, but listen, he's still in the tournament in Eastbourne, and he's won that tournament twice, and the draw has really opened up. So I feel like that could give him a lot of confidence going into Wimbledon, and I like him on grass. He didn't lose a single set up until the quarterfinals a couple of years ago, and then got so close to beating Nadal, which would have been the second time he would have beaten him that year. But I feel like Fritz is having an underrated season, so I want to shout him out. And shout out to Tommy Paul as well, who might be not having the most underrated season, but might be the most underrated player on tour. Much higher on him than I've been in the past ever. I kind of think now he has potential to win a big title. I've changed my tune with Paul. I honestly don't love recalibrating. Sometimes I'm a bit stubborn to kind of keep the same opinions and keep the same thoughts. If I have a thought, and I kind of like to keep it, which is not a good quality, but that's kind of what I feel like sometimes. And with Paul, sometimes you just have to recalibrate. And with Tommy Paul, absolutely, you have to recalibrate. I mean, I feel like this is a guy who he's doing better on all three surfaces. He's got to the semifinals of Rome. He got to the, on grass, he took the title in Queens. Listen, Paul, and he's absolutely top tier on hard court. So Tommy Paul is a guy who I feel like is only improving, is only getting better. He's an absolute athletic marvel. He's a great shot maker. He's got big weapons, and he's just got this kind of calm mentality on him. And I think he likes playing at slams too, and at the big tournaments. He likes the big matches. So I've really changed my tune with Paul. And listen, he might play in a way that looks a little bit weird and a little bit like not like the top guys that we're used to. But does Medvedev play in a way that's particularly in a way that you would coach? Does Nadal play in a way that you would coach a player generally, the way he hits his forehand? I mean, I don't really think so. So I think Tommy Paul is somebody to look out for. He's got big weapons. So I'd watch out for Paul. All right, moving into the top 10, just to end off this kind of mid-season review of a podcast, and hopefully it's been enjoyable, talking about where we're at. And going through the top 10, Grigor Dimitrov at number 10, having an absolutely stellar season. He's had a stellar season since the U.S. Open, kind of like Yannick. Played absolutely ridiculous against Alcaraz in Miami. It literally looked like a prime Federer. And I don't like it when people take a player as a one-handed backhand and just go, oh, he looks like a prime Federer. It's almost insulting to Federer, but he looked like a prime Federer against Alcaraz. He was playing out of his mind against Alcaraz. The way he was taking returns early. His first strike is looking as good as ever. I think he's a dark horse at Wimbledon, a huge one. Not even a dark horse. I think he's a favorite at Wimbledon. To be honest, I think he's one of the guys to absolutely look out for. He's having an amazing season. He's only losing to the top players. And, he's looking great. Alex de Minaur at number 9. Man, has he improved. He's been looking stellar all year. He's kind of like Fritz. His level on clay has only risen up. De Minaur has had a great season. He defended his title in Acapulco. He got to the final of Rotterdam, lost to Yannick in one of the best matches I've seen him play in a better, improved clay season. Got a title on grass in Hertogenbosch. I mean, Minaur is just, he's improved in every facet. He looks like he absolutely belongs and wants to stay in the top 10. And he's doing way, way better. Casper Ruud has had a very strong season as well. Right from the jump, he's been playing way better, way smarter, way better in the big moments. He's doing much better off the back end too. That was very crucial in his match against Djokovic in Monte Carlo. And yeah, I mean, he's just, I think Ruud is a very talented player. And yeah, he didn't get to the final Roland Garros, but semis isn't bad either, losing to Zverev, and he wasn't feeling very healthy either in that match. And yeah, he's been playing really well. Hurkacz, I think, a career high number 7. He's had a strong season. Hurkacz has definitely had a strong season. Hurkacz is 33-13 on the season, 33 wins, 13 losses. He's been playing a lot of tournaments. Not in absolutely just, he hasn't had a season that, would change the scope of his career to this point yet, but he just got to the final in Halle. He got to the quarterfinals of a major for, I believe, the second time of his career in Australia. Once again, played that amazing match against Medvedev in the quarterfinals there. Got to final of United Cup. Hurkacz also got a title in Estoril on clay, his first title on clay. So Hurkacz has definitely had a great season. I'm expecting very big things for him on grass. He was very close to winning both of the first 2 sets that he played against Djokovic last year at Wimbledon. Then he did take a set. In the third set, I expect big things from him on grass. He's absolutely always one of the big contenders on grass, and I think with his serve, which is absolutely insane, and he's only getting better. He's only playing better in the big events. He's won 2 Masters, and I think he absolutely belongs in the conversation, especially because everything seems so open. And yeah, with the next 2 players, Rublev and Medvedev, just not really having great seasons to this point. I mean, Medvedev better than Rublev, because Medvedev got to the final of the Australian Open, got to the final of Indian Wells. Medvedev still has some things to celebrate, but for Rublev, since that incident in Dubai where he got very close to an umpire, then got defaulted towards the late stages of the match against Bublik, it just hasn't been there for him. It just has not been there for him. He's still been getting very down on himself easily. He's still, the kind of self-harming tendencies on court, unfortunately, are still there, and it's still not something you want to see. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that Rublev gets the help he needs, and he definitely, if he is in that mindset, it's going to be very tough for him to win matches. So, and that's not even the most important thing, but he did get that great event in Madrid. I really haven't seen a season like this where he's had very, very little to celebrate. Got a quarterfinal in the Australian Open as well, but he's had little to celebrate outside of one tournament where he had an incredibly good tournament, beating Fritz in the semifinals there as well. And then after that, it just beating Alcaraz as well in the quarterfinals, which is the even bigger win. But outside of that, he's just gone right back to his kind of losing ways. I thought that maybe he'd be able to build on that, but it's just been, that's been in a lake in a desert. I mean, it's he's not had a great season. Medvedev, he's had a long period of good success. I mean, you can say that he's been losing in finals, but he's been losing in finals to the best of the best. And I think he's had a wonderful little kind of year, a little bit over a year from after the Australian Open 2023 to Indian Wells and this year. He's had a very, very strong period there. He's kind of on a down period. I don't know once we get to the North American hardcourt swing that is going to remain this way. He's on clay and grass, which has never been his favorite anyway. I mean, I know he won Rome last year, but I said it right after he won Rome last year. Everybody was saying, oh, he's going to have great clay results from now on. I kind of said, I predicted that he would lose pretty early at Roland Garros that year when I did my player profile for him right before Roland Garros. And I predicted he would not do as well as a lot of people were saying. A lot of people were saying, oh, he's going to make the semis. It just got to the one title in Rome. I said it then. I expect that in the future we're going to look at that as an absolute anomaly and exception in his repertoire and in his career, his resume. So I kind of think that that's going to end up being the case. Hardcourt. Medvedev is a hardcourt specialist. That's where we need to wait for Medvedev, and I still expect to see some big things from him. I still think he will win a hardcourt major down the road sometime, even though it is looking a little bit worse for him at the moment, especially with Sinner and Alcaraz, but I still expect it, to be honest, because he is just that good. Zverev at number 4, he's having an absolutely great season. Got the title in Rome, semis of Australian Open, final of Roland Garros. Number 4 in the world. He's back to some of his best tennis, serving incredibly well. So yeah, he's doing well. He's being very consistent. We'll see if he keeps it up. Not doing as well on grass. He's never done as well on grass. And I don't know. We'll see if he can keep it up. I kind of don't know if he will, but he's been proving me wrong, because I did predict him to not even end year-end top 10 for whatever reason. That was my prediction before the year started. He's definitely going to, and he's definitely proved me wrong with his level this season. So yeah, that's what it is with that. Alcaraz at number 3 in the world. He moves down a spot. Djokovic still in the top 2. Alcaraz was struggling at the start of this year. He got injured in the second point of the match, the second point of the tournament that he played in Rio against Montero, and he was struggling. Lost to Jari in straight sets in Buenos Aires. And then he got the title in Indian Wells. He's gotten the title in Roland Garros. He's back to some of his absolute best tennis. So as long as he stays healthy, he should be an absolute contender. He did have the loss to Draper, but he's still figuring out the grass, and Draper was running with such good momentum. Djokovic at number 2. I already spoke in lengths about him and the fact that he's been struggling. We really haven't seen a period of time like this. Sinner's at number 1. He is just absolutely dominating, playing fantastic. He's so complete. Defense is so much better than it ever was. He's still incorporating new things into his game. Whether it's the drop shots on clay that he was hitting more than ever, or coming to net on grass more than ever, trying to. So these are a lot of very exciting things. And listen, I looked into this stat. He is only the second man ever to win the first title that he plays after becoming both world number 1 and a Grand Slam champion. That is very rare to do that. To still win that. It might seem like it's not. It shouldn't be. Especially because it's any tournament that you play as a world number 1, as a slam champion. Like, okay, you've done it. You should be winning everything, right? I mean, you've just won the last Grand Slam. You just won world number 1. Well, I don't think that's quite the case, because listen, I mean, you're world number, if you become world number 1, your mentality is so, you got a bit of an ego, and you start thinking, oh, I should win everything. And then before you know it, a guy that you're counting out is suddenly beating you, and your mindset isn't what it was when you're world number 2, world number 3, world number 4, because when you're world number 2, world number 3, you're always chasing to be world number 1. You're always so focused. It's easy to lose that focus when you're winning. That's the truth. But Sinner, and it shows with the stat, right? Only 2 men of the 29 players that have been world number 1 have won the next event that they play as a world number 1 and as a Grand Slam champion. Him and Jimmy Connors. They are the only 2. So Sinner, such a good mindset to kind of not take his foot off of the gas pedal and to just kind of keep winning and winning and winning. That's always been his thing, just to keep improving, keep working, even after he wins tournaments, whether he loses or wins, he keeps working. He has absolutely dominated this year. He's been in the semifinals or better of every tournament that he's played, which is incredible consistency. And I'm not going to say that this is the consistency yet from Sinner and Alcaraz, who are still both very young, but I'm not going to say it's the consistency of the big 3, the big 4, but, listen, we're seeing a changing of eras. It's very exciting. And, I once again think, I think some of us didn't really realize that the next era had already started, because Djokovic was so dominant in 2023. We're like, okay, that's not a new era yet. Djokovic still is going to do this and this and this. But, listen, with Davis Cup, with the Australian Open, those Sinner victories over Djokovic, maybe we're in the new era. It's very exciting. Is Djokovic going to be able to find his best tennis in the second half? He seemed so off his game in the first half that it would seem a little bit weird for him to find suddenly a very kind of his dominance and consistency, that type of level, especially as he still really is getting older, and it's going to be hard for him to find that level again. Can he find that level in a specific tournament? I think absolutely. I think he can still find a very, very top level. It's going to be very interesting to see if he's able to do that. Obviously, in the second half, the Olympics is going to be the big motivator. I'm seeing a lot of people saying that a lot of people are feeling less and less excited about the Olympics, but I still believe the Olympics has the potential to be one of the better tennis tournaments that we've seen. And I think that the Olympics matter. It's the prestige in sports. It's the ultimate achievement in so many sports. And it's seen, if there's any one award that's seen as the ultimate goal for athletes, it's the gold medal in the Olympics. And I think, listen, we should cherish that in tennis as well. A lot of the players do. The tournament did count for points in the past, 750 points. And, by all means, I believe that it would make sense for us to see this as a big event in tennis. And either way, I mean, with Djokovic, with Rafa, I think that there's a lot of interesting stories coming into the Olympics. And, it's going to be really interesting to see if Djokovic rebounds and how much he can hold off Sinner and Alcaraz. But Sinner and Alcaraz have broken through the door, and that's really been the story partially of this first half of the year. Along with Djokovic struggling. Because it's not like last year it felt like we were getting very interesting wins over Djokovic, with Sinner earning an amazing victory at the ATP Finals and Davis Cup, Alcaraz earning an incredible victory over Djokovic at Wimbledon. In some of the biggest stages, these guys beating Djokovic and earning wins while Djokovic is still playing amazing tennis the way he dominated in 2023, winning in straight sets in the finals of 4 of the 5 biggest tournaments of the year. So Sinner and Alcaraz still earning victories, but it doesn't quite feel like that this year. It feels like Djokovic has dropped off in level, maybe dropped off in motivation. So, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see how it all kind of unfolds. And yeah, I appreciate everybody for watching this podcast. Please tune in for the Wimbledon draw predictions as well. And, listen, I don't think that we've gotten the best tournaments that we did, say, that we, like, the way that we did in 2023, or we had, the best matches like we did in 2023. We haven't had a Djokovic-Alcaraz Cincinnati or Djokovic-Alcaraz Wimbledon yet. Let alone maybe a Murray Kokonakis Australian Open. I don't think we've had matches that good yet. But I am still optimistic with Sinner and Alcaraz kind of showing that, listen, the eras are changing. We're kind of in an in-between. We could have a very interesting open draw at Wimbledon. That's kind of where the men's game is at the moment. I feel like the top 10, there's better depth in the men's game, the top 10, the top 20, than there was 6 months ago. I really highly believe so. I mean, when we were talking about the rankings last year, we were looking at Sinner, Alcaraz, Medvedev, Djokovic. That was pretty much it. Maybe Rublev, Zverev. Everybody outside of that, Tsitsipas, Rune, Casper, there weren't players that we were very excited about. Now there's tons of players that look like dangerous players. I mean, yeah, there's Rublev, Zverev, Medvedev, Rublev and Medvedev struggling a little bit, but we have those 6 players, Sinner, Djokovic, Alcaraz, Zverev, Medvedev, Rublev. But past that, Hurkacz is looking like a very big threat whenever you play him. Ruud is playing incredible this season. Minaur stepped up. Dimitrov has stepped up. Tsitsipas is back at a higher level, the way he was playing in Monte Carlo, etc. Tommy Paul looks good. Fritz looks good. Shelton, Rune, Hugo and Bear, they're tough. They're the next guys up. FA's playing better. Then you have guys like Baez, Jari, Korda. You got Draper a little bit lower, Greek Spore. You got a player like Musetti. You got a player like even Bublik. Like these are players that you at least feel like that they have some weight to their names, and that makes it really interesting. And I feel like even though it hasn't been the best season so far, especially the 2-week Masters, that we need to make a change with that. But it hasn't been the best season so far. It really hasn't. I don't think it has, personally. But I will say that it feels like an in-between. There's an in-between in about 2002, 2003, when people didn't know who's going to come up between the golden era, Big Three era, and Sampras Agassi. Nobody knew it was going to be a Big Three, Federer dominating at first kind of era. Everybody was saying, who's going to be the next guy up? Is it going to be Leighton Hewitt, Juan Carlos Ferrero, Nalbandian? Nope. Federer started dominating everything. We're in that kind of an era. And at that point, between the Sampras Agassi dominance kind of and the Federer Nadal Djokovic definite dominance, you had random players winning slams. I don't want to say random, but they're players that not that many people remember those slam victories, like a Costa and like a Gaudio. And shout out to both of those players because they earned incredible Grand Slam wins and they're amazing players. But they're not wins of players that, you know, you'd expect to be winning Grand Slams. At least they were surprises at those times. And I feel like we could get some more surprises. It feels like an in-between era where we see the gear shifting and we're seeing a change in eras. And that's exciting in its own right. Take this in. We'll see what Djokovic and Rafa have to kind of stop that. And Murray as well is still playing, but we'll see what Djokovic and Nadal have to stop that. And Sinner and Alcaraz, they are not slowing, and that is exactly what we want to see. Neither is Djokovic, though. Hopefully he stays motivated, because that's what we want to see as well. But yeah, well, once again, please don't forget to subscribe and like and all of that. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Definitely check out the Wimbledon draw predictions coming next. And yeah, I will see you guys at the next one.